As they led him off, they made Simon, a man from Cyrene, who happened to be coming in from the countryside, carry the cross behind Jesus. A huge crowd of people followed, along with women weeping and carrying on. 2 others, both criminals, were taken along with him for execution. And when they got to the place called Skull Hill, they crucified him along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left.
It'll all be over soon. The crowd has drifted away. The blood flowing from my wounds has dropped to a congealed trickle. And I can see the Roman soldier strolling towards the sledgehammer. Without a look of pity or remorse, he will raise it to the sky and arc the heavy-weighted hammer into my legs. And my bones will shatter. My body will sag and my vision will cloud with agony. And then each breath will become a battle, and I will hang, resigned on the nails in my hands and feet, and will cough and choke until death meets me. Just another criminal, just another body, just another day. And I thought I'd gotten away with it too. We'd jumped out from the ditch and grabbed those 2 fat, wealthy Romans, and we'd had some fun. We'd mocked them and beaten them and threatened them, and we'd grabbed their wallets from their sides. And finally we'd stabbed them to death with our daggers. There could be no witnesses, but someone must have seen. The next day, while we were still celebrating, a group of Roman soldiers burst in the door, and my excitement and joy was punched into fear and agony. I was thrown before Pilate, the Roman governor, and without a glance, just a single word, death, my life was over. And I screamed and I swore at him. But the soldiers grabbed me, and then their fun began. Beaten, stripped, mocked, abused, screaming pain. And finally their fun finished. And I was stretched out on this final wooden bed. And with a desperate final attempt, I struggled to break free, but my body was weak against their grip. And they laughed and then drove the nails through my flesh, tendons and bones. 2 others are being crucified with me. One's just like me, screaming and struggling, cursing every Roman who comes near. But the other, he's just silent. He looks at the Romans and doesn't have hatred. His body was beaten bloody like mine, yet he doesn't struggle or scream curses. He yelled out in pain as the nails pierced him, and he looked around, and his lips moved quietly as if in prayer. Some of the crowd came to the foot of his cross and started bowing down in mockery. "Jesus, King of the Jews, how do you like your new throne?" They laughed, pointing at his crown of thorns, big and prickly, driven deep into his skin. They asked, "How about that crown? Does it fit well?" Jesus, I'd heard of this man. A man who welcomed the outcasts of society. One who had hung out with prostitutes, thieves, poor and the sick. One of my friends, a loudmouth guy who loved beer and fighting, had gone to where Jesus was teaching, planning to cause a scene and disrupt. Instead, he'd come back, changed. He told me he'd seen Jesus pray for a blind man and he'd been healed. And he said that Jesus had looked at him, and it was like looking into the eyes of a loving father. So what was Jesus doing on a cross? The other guy hanging on the cross, I'd known him from a different gang. He was like me, angry and violent. And his voice cut through the air, joining in the mockery of Jesus. It's too much. Could he not see Jesus, the one who healed and cared for so many? Straining against the nails, I turned my head and tried to put him in his place. Shut up! Don't you get it? We did wrong. We got caught. We killed. We stole. But leave Jesus out of this. He shouldn't be here. I then looked at Jesus. Blood and sweat caked his face. I knew that if there was a heaven, Jesus would be going there. So I whispered, Jesus, remember me when you get to paradise. He turned his head, looked at me, and he smiled. And in his gaze I saw eyes that looked past my crimes and saw my story. He saw the hurting, scared person I was. He looked and saw the hidden, real me. Then he said the words I'd wanted to hear all my life. I'll see you in paradise. A few hours later, Jesus broke the silence. He shouted a prayer to his God, telling God he trusted in him. The crowd went silent this time. Then Jesus took a deep breath and he died. Yet I knew this was not the end of the story. As the darkness grew deeper around me, his words echoed in my ears. He was in paradise, waiting for me. He would welcome me home. The Roman soldier is closer now. The sledgehammer is raised. But my story is not over. My legs and heart will break and my eyes will close, but they will open again. I will breathe again. I will taste life. Jesus beckons me. I deserve this. I deserve death. But now I have so much more. Death is not the end. The hammer is coming down. It'll all be over soon.
By now it was noon. The whole earth became black, the darkness lasting 3 hours, a total blackout. The temple curtain split right down the middle. Jesus called loudly, "Father, I place my life in your hands." Then he breathed his last. When the captain there saw what had happened, he honored God. This man was innocent, a good man and innocent. All who had come around as spectators to watch the show, when they saw what actually happened, were overcome with grief and headed home. Those who knew Jesus well, along with women who had followed him from Galilee, stood at a respectful distance and kept vigil. There was a man by the name of Joseph, a member of the Jewish High Council, a man of good heart and good character. He had not gone along with the plans and actions of the council. His hometown was the Jewish village of Arimathea. He lived in alert expectation of the kingdom of God. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Taking him down, he wrapped him in a linen shroud and placed him in a tomb chiseled into the rock, a tomb never yet used. It was the day before Sabbath, the Sabbath just about to begin. The women who had been companions of Jesus from Galilee followed along. They saw the tomb where Jesus' body was placed. Then they went back to prepare burial spices and perfumes. They rested quietly on the Sabbath, as commanded.